Welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Daily Fantasy 5, where we bring you the 5 things you need to know every day in the world of fantasy sports. Today is May 15th, episode 85, and as always, we are brought to you by mathradio.com. Go to mathradio.com to pick up an online math course for as little as $9.99, where you can help your child do better in math by getting better grades, higher test scores, and even helping them get into college. For as little as $9.99, you can have lifetime membership to any of our courses. Go to www.mathradio.com. All right, everybody, today we've got a lot going on. We have 4 baseball stories. We have NBA playoff action going on, and we are recapping the AFC North. So a lot to cover today. Let's get into it. All right, we're going to start with the amazing Chris Sale of the Boston Red Sox. Last night, he had 17 strikeouts in 7 innings. All right, I know his ERA is still 4.24. His win-loss record is 1-5, and he does have a nice whip of 1.02. Okay. However, in the month of May, the guy is crushing it with a 1.29 ERA and 41 strikeouts in only 21 innings. Okay. You should be buying all the Chris Sale stock you can get. He is back. He's an ace, a top 5 pitcher in the Major League Baseball. Okay. Our second story is a guy we talked about all the time, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., my favorite hitting prospect in all of baseball. He went out and hit 2 home runs finally last night. He's only hitting 235 on the season with only those 2 home runs, but I still think he has maybe the biggest potential of any prospect in baseball. I'm still buying Vladimir Guerrero stock. A stock you should not be buying is Minnesota Twins catcher Mitch Garver. So he suffered an ankle sprain last night. We don't know how long he's going to be out. He has been crushing it lately, though. This season, he's hitting 329 with 9 home runs and 16 RBIs. It's an absolute shame that he's going to be out for a while. But there is some relief for the Minnesota Twins and fantasy owners out there. Jason Castro should be seeing more playing time at catcher, and he's been doing very well this season as well. In 49 at-bats, he's hitting 245 with 5 home runs. So if you need some catcher help, Jason Castro should be an option for you out there in fantasy leagues and in daily fantasy as well. All right, let's move over to some more bad news in the Texas this time. Rangers shortstop Elvis Andrus left the game last night with hamstring tightness. Might not be that serious, but Andrus has also been crushing it this season. He's hitting 325 with 6 home runs, 26 RBIs, and 8 stolen bases. Those are season-winning numbers for Elvis Andrus. So if you have him, I would be a little bit worried. Hopefully it's not a huge situation as I only saw tightness. He's going to be evaluated later on today, so hopefully we'll have some news for you on tomorrow's show. All right, that's all the baseball. There's actually more baseball, but that's all we're going to talk about in today's show. We're going to move over to the NBA playoffs. Last night did not go as planned, so we are down to 4.5 units. Our guys in Portland just didn't step it up. They tried to hang in there in the first half, but they just got overwhelmed. Tonight's game, we have Toronto at Milwaukee. Milwaukee is favored by 6. Give me all that Milwaukee. I'll take Milwaukee minus the 6, no problem. This game tips off at 8:30. I like it. And we have a 217 over and under. And before I forget, congratulations to the New Orleans Pelicans on landing Zion Williams. I think they deserved it by not sending Anthony Davis to the Lakers. Good for you, Pelicans. Davis and Zion should make for an interesting combination if they convince Davis to stay. All right, but back to our game tonight. So I'm taking Milwaukee minus the 6. I also love a prop on Giannis Antetokounmpo. They've got his over-under at total points at 29. Give me the over. I don't think anyone, including Kawhi Leonard, can stop Giannis. The guy is 6'11". He is just an absolute monster. Siakam, I don't think has any chance to guard or stop Giannis or even slow him down. I think he hits 4 or 5 threes. I think he has 12, maybe not 12 dunks, a lot of dunks. Maybe he gets 10 free throws. He puts the entire Toronto team in foul trouble, and they just get crushed. That's what I see tonight. So give me the over on Giannis of 29 points. So that's 2 of my 4.5 units I have left. I'm going to put the other 2.5 units on the Bucks to win the series at minus 260. So the math doesn't quite work out, but it's close enough, okay? So I'm essentially betting $260 to only win $100, but give me the Bucks in the series. Hopefully they don't lose tonight because then I could have got better value tomorrow. But give me the Bucks now. I think they're going to crush it tonight, and those odds are even going to go higher and higher and higher. So again, just to recap, give me Milwaukee minus 6, Giannis over the 29, and the Bucks in the series at minus 260, and that'll be every unit I have. So hopefully we don't go broke here. As far as fantasy sports goes, your daily fantasy on FanDuel, there's only 2 players above a 5.0 multiplier on Roto Grinders today. Those 2 players are Chris Middleton and Kawhi Leonard. So if you're going to run out a single game lineup, I would start with Kawhi Leonard, maybe throw Chris Middleton in there. And obviously, if you can, start Giannis, but it doesn't seem like he'd be able to do that with that kind of budget. So that's all I have for the fantasy portion of the show today. Now let's move on to our AFC North draft coverage. All right, we're recapping the Ravens, the Bengals, the Browns, and the Steelers. The team that I liked least in this division was the Steelers. All right, they came in 4th for me. Let's do a little recap. Last year, they were 9-6-1. Their offensive DVOA was 6th, and defense was 13. So you would think with those kind of numbers, they would have made the playoffs, but they did not. What they did in the draft was they traded up from 20 to 10. They gave up a second rounder this year and a third rounder next year. I don't really mind the move. I think you got pretty good value here. Devin Bush seems like a player they needed desperately at linebacker. He's a linebacker out of Michigan, very fast. He's good on the ball, good in coverage. He doesn't really rush the passer that much, but I think he's going to be, a Pro Bowl caliber linebacker for them for years and years to come. So I like the pick. I think you didn't give up too much. You got a player you really needed. But after that, they drafted in the 3rd round Deontay Johnson, wide receiver out of Toledo, who seems like maybe a late 4th round pick. Justin Lane, a quarterback out of Michigan State. I really like this pick. He's the other pick I do like. Benny Snell Jr. out of Kentucky. I've heard some people like him. They say, he carried the Kentucky offense. He had 30 carries a game. He did great. I don't know. I just don't see it. He's kind of a between the tackles rusher, not a lot of catching ability, so he's not going to help out Big Ben. Certainly doesn't fill Bell's shoes. I just don't like the pick. Maybe he would have been a better 6th, 7th round pick. I don't see it in the 4th round. Who else do we have? In the 5th round, they drafted Zach Gentry, a tight end out of Michigan. A lot of rating services. I saw him going in the 7th round as well. He's huge. Let me just tell you that. He's 6'8", 265. So I'll look stupid when, the guy has 6 touchdowns, in the red zone this year. But that's pretty much all he can do is kind of run and catch jump balls. But at 6'8", 265, maybe it's worth a gamble in the 5th round. In the 6th round, they took 2 more linebackers, and they took a defensive tackle. In the 7th round, they took a guard. So from their 3 6th round picks, their 5th round pick and their 7th round pick, on the site I use for ratings, there was only one guy who should have been drafted, and that was Isaiah Buggs in the 7th round. All the other guys were rated outside, like undrafted free agents. So how well did this Steelers team really do? Again, I like the Justin Lane pick, a cornerback out of Michigan State in the 3rd. I like Devin Bush in the 1st round, but that's about it. I think this team has more holes to fill. I don't think they did it. But I mean, who am I to really to question the Deontay Johnson pick? The Steelers turn out wide receivers like crazy. I just don't think they filled all their holes. I think this team is in trouble. I think Ben is on the downward slide. I don't think this draft did anything to help them out. And unless I'm mistaken, I don't see a quarterback anywhere on my little piece of paper here. So, no, I'm going to say the Steelers had the worst draft in the AFC North. Okay, let's move on to my 3rd team, who are the Cleveland Browns. Now, in full disclosure, when I first did this little exercise going through the teams, I had the Browns rated number 1. I'm thinking, man, they got OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr. in a trade. You got to count that towards their draft. They did all this other great stuff. They got Greedy Williams. They did this. They did that. But as I steadily looked at the Ravens and the Bengals, I moved them both in front of the Cleveland Browns. And let me tell you why. But first, let's recap how the Browns ended last season. They were 7-8-1, but they came on really, really strongly after they fired their horrible coach. Offensive DVOA, 17th, so they could use some help there. Defense, they were 12th. Well, they helped out the offense. They got Odell Beckham Jr. They traded this year's 1st-round pick and a 3rd-round pick to get him. I think they got back some other picks, but let's just stick with that. So what did they do? They ended up trading up from 49 to 46 in the 2nd round to grab Greedy Williams, and they only had to give up a 5th rounder to do it. Man, do I love this pick. He is a perfect complement to Ward. On the other side, they also have Mitchell. I think this is going to be an amazing defensive secondary. This should be the strength of their team. Plus, they have pass rush. I don't know. This defense seems complete to me. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they're in the top 10 in DVOA this year. Let's move on. Obviously, Greedy Williams is a cornerback out of LSU. I thought he was a first-round player. I thought he was honestly a top 20 player. I wouldn't have been upset if someone would have grabbed him in the top 10. I think he's going to be an outstanding cornerback for years and years to come. In the third round, they grabbed a linebacker. No, forgive me here. Sione Takikaki. That can't be right. But anyway, he's a linebacker out of BYU. Seems to be a decent player. Fourth round, they took a safety, Red Wine out of Miami. He seems like a reach. A lot of people had him projected as like a fifth, sixth, seventh round player. I love the fifth rounder they took. They took a chance on Mac Wilson, linebacker out of Alabama. He was the leader of that team. He was the heart and soul of their defense. They could use some of that in Cleveland. I think that really, really helps their defense out. Now, here's what I didn't like and why, besides the safety, Red Wine, I didn't like them drafting a kicker in the fifth round. I don't like the offensive tackle they got in the sixth, and I don't like the cornerback they got in the seventh. So in the fifth round, couldn't you have added another offensive tackle there and just, grabbed whoever and kicker like undrafted free agents? I just hated the end of this draft. Hated the safety pick. Hate the kicker, the tackle, and the cornerback. I really think they kind of took a bath here at the end. So that's why I dropped them all the way from 1 to 3. If you factor Odell Beckham Jr., there's an argument to be made that the Browns are really the number one draft class in this division. But he isn't really. You're not paying him a rookie salary anymore. You're paying him lots of money, so you can't count him like a normal rookie. So I'm bringing the Browns down to number 3, but I think they're going to win this division. Let me plant my flag right now. The Browns, first place in the AFC North. Okay, my second favorite team in the AFC North were the Cincinnati Bengals. All right, let's recap last year. They were 6-10, offensive DVOA 19, defense they were 27th. So they definitely need some help on defense. What I really thought they needed was a whole reboot. Give me a new quarterback, get Andy Dalton out of there. Let's start over. They had the chance to do that at pick number 11, but instead they went with Jonah Williams, offensive tackle out of Alabama. Dwayne Haskins was still on the board there at number 11. They didn't have to trade up. They didn't have to do anything, but instead they let the Redskins draft him at number 15. I would have been much happier with this draft if the Bengals would have taken Dwayne Haskins at number 11. However, they waited till the fourth round to pick quarterback Ryan Finley. I don't mind that pick. I think Finley could be a starting quarterback in this league. If you're going to gamble, I think they had to bring in some young talent, right? Might as well go with Ryan Finley. Maybe you catch lightning in a bottle. And if you don't, and if this team stinks this year, you're probably going to have a top pick again next year when the quarterback crop is huge. But you're going to have to give up a lot of assets next year where you could have given up nothing this year except for your own pick and taken Dwayne Haskins. That's my big problem with this draft. It's why I had him rated third, but I moved him ahead of the Browns because I like a lot of the players they picked. Jonah Williams at number 11, offensive tackle out of Alabama, is a very good player. He will probably be their left tackle for the next decade. That's good value. In the second round, they traded back from 42 to 52. They picked up a fourth rounder and a sixth rounder, and they got Drew Sample, a tight end out of Washington. I think he's probably the third tight end in this group. He seems like a very, very good player who's quick. He can block. He has good size. Seems like a good pick to me. So those are two players on the offensive line who should help out whoever the quarterback is. Okay. In the third round, they took Jermaine Pratt, outside linebacker out of NC State. He seems like a good player. I don't know. Seems to have value there. Should help out the defense. He was rated 27th. Yikes. I don't love that you didn't take a defensive player until the third round. Fourth round, we already talked about Ryan Finley out of NC State. I like him. They took a defensive tackle out of Arizona State named Wren, and they took a guard out of Ohio State named Jordan. So I love that they had 3 fourth-round picks. That's where the value came in this draft. And hopefully they can hit on the defensive tackle and the guard. Then, you've pretty much redone your entire offensive line. You've added a tackle, you've added a guard, and a tight end. That is really, really nice in one draft. In the sixth round, they took 2 running backs and a linebacker. And then in the seventh round, they took a cornerback. So they ended up getting 10 players in this draft, which is great if you would have a quarterback in place, which I don't think Andy Dalton is that answer despite his hot start last year. So my thing is they needed O-line, they needed a quarterback, they needed a tight end, and they needed linebackers. Well, they got 2 offensive linemen. They did get a quarterback, although not the guy I would have picked. They did get a tight end, and they got 2 linebackers. So how can you complain about this draft? I think they did well, except they didn't get that marquee quarterback. But I'm still going to put them into second place. This seems like a solid B-plus draft. All right, my number 1 team in the AFC North was the Baltimore Ravens at 10-6 last year. On offense, they finished 15th in DVOA. Defense, they finished in 3rd place. Very nice. They drafted 6 players in the first 4 rounds. I like that as well. So what did they do in this draft? Well, they moved down from 22 to 25. They added a 4th and a 6th rounder. I love this. And they still drafted one of my favorite offensive players in the entire draft, Hollywood Brown, wide receiver out of Oklahoma. Now, I know we talked about this when it happened. I didn't really love the fit in Baltimore, and I still don't. I think, the quarterback, Lamar Jackson, isn't the most accurate guy in the world, and Hollywood Brown really needs someone to be accurate so that he can get the ball in space and make moves. But, you've got to add weapons for Lamar Jackson. He's got to become somewhat of a thrower, or this offense is simply going to stagnate right in the middle of the league, because obviously they're going to be able to run the ball. There's no doubt about that. But you've got to be able to pass the ball to help your run game out as well if you want to move up from 15th offensively. And I think Marquise Brown certainly does that. The wide receiver out of Oklahoma, Hollywood Brown, should make an instant impact this year. They don't have a number 2 pick because of the Lamar Jackson deal last year. But then in the 3rd round, they go out and they take Jalen Ferguson, a very good defensive end out of Louisiana Tech. I think he can make an instant impact on a defense that's already good. Then they traded up to 93, and they drafted Miles Boykin, another 3rd rounder. This is a wide receiver out of Notre Dame. I love this guy. I think he's going to be, I don't know if I'd call him the steal of the draft, but I think he's going to make a major impact this year. So you've given Lamar Jackson all kinds of weapons at wide receiver with Hollywood Brown and Miles Boykin. I think this is a great pick for them. He's the bigger-bodied receiver that I think can really do work that a quarterback like Lamar Jackson needs. So I think he's a better fit than Hollywood Brown, but obviously I think Hollywood Brown is the better player. Again, that's wide receiver Miles Boykin out of Notre Dame. They had to give up picks 102, 191, and 193. So you gave up some depth later on. That's okay. In the 4th round, they got one of the most electric running backs in this draft, Justice Hill, running back out of Oklahoma State. Some more weapons, put him in that backfield, and you are ready to go. They also picked up in the 4th round guard Ben Powers out of Oklahoma. Seems like a good player. And Eamon Marshall, cornerback out of USC. This is the only pick that I really don't like. I think you could have got other value. I think he's just overrated as a cornerback. Many of the rating services I saw had him rated at a 6th or 7th round pick, and you took him in the 4th. So it just seems like a reach to me. But maybe Eamon Marshall, cornerback out of USC, will be great. I'm not paid to be a draft analyst. I don't know much about cornerbacks. It just seems like everyone else thinks he's overrated. Okay. In the 5th round, they took a defensive tackle. 6th round, quarterback Trace McSorley. So I wanted to talk about this briefly. The quarterback out of Penn State is very athletic. He's got great leadership skills. I like all of this, especially behind 2 other quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson and Robert Griffin. They all have the same athletic style where if you have to go through, if Lamar gets injured, because he is skinny, and Robert Griffin gets injured because he always gets injured, then I think Trace McSorley could come in and do an adequate job and maybe keep them in the playoff hunt for a couple of weeks until Lamar Jackson gets back, and maybe he develops into a quarterback of the future if Lamar Jackson doesn't pan out and can't stay healthy. I don't mind that pick at all, especially in the 6th round. Who else did they take? Oh, that's it. All right, so that's all their players. If you heard what I said, I like everybody except for the quarterback, Eamon Marshall out of USC. So I love this draft for the Ravens. I really think this makes them a playoff contender again, even though I don't love what Lamar Jackson did. He really needs to develop as a passer. But, look what they did. They added a guard, give him more time, and they added 2 wide receivers so they have more weapons to throw to. I love this draft for the Ravens. They are my number 1 choice. All right, that is it for the AFC North. Just to recap, Ravens were my number 1 team. The Bengals came in 2nd. Browns came in 3rd. And the Steelers finished 4th. But, again, I'm picking in this division, the Cleveland Browns to be number 1. Okay, that's it for today for the Daily Fantasy 5. I hope you enjoyed the draft recap, all the baseball talk, and the basketball prognostication. We will see you back here tomorrow for some more fantasy sports talk. On Friday, we will be doing the AFC South, and we'll have more draft coverage then. Please visit www.mathradio.com and buy a math course for your child. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe and like this show. If you're on iTunes, please give us a 5-star rating and a nice review. That's it for today. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.